Hello there and welcome to another week of strategies, tactics, techniques, and tips of the weeks for MMA. This is a continuation from last week's video series on indirect attack and the difference between feints and fakes. So I said last week that I would do a series on this topic in here, and today we're going to continue more on the details and on the difference between a feint and a fake and the progression and how to use each one of those, how to use different techniques in a feint as well as a fake. Okay. Now the reason why I started this tutorial in the first place was because it was my opinion that in combat sports, many fighters and coaches use feinting tactics primarily as a way to get their opponent off balance and to get them, to overreacting or something like that. Keep them nervous. I haven't really seen coaches tell their fighters to use fakes, and in my opinion, there is a major difference between the two, and they have their advantages and they have their disadvantages, and there is an art to eventually using both of these concepts on every opponent that you face, because every opponent is going to be different. Some people are not going to respond to your feinting actions as much as another person because they're not as intimidated. Some people are very intimidated and they'll almost jump at anything you throw at them. Okay, some people have very good defense and you darn near almost have to hit them with a fake in order to even get a hit off and score on them. So there's a lot of science and eventually art to the indirect attack concept. One of the big problems is the indirect attack is not really used a whole lot in mixed martial arts competition. It's mostly, all out, direct attack, which means just, any attack that you do that doesn't deceive his intentions. Okay, it's just trying to take the guy's head off. Indirect attacks are all attacks that you deploy that do have a deception or deceiving purpose behind it. Okay, all indirect attacks have to work with broken rhythm, which is another topic for a later time that doesn't really get utilized too well in mixed martial arts. So let's go ahead and get started first today, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of recap real quick about the difference between a feint and a fake. And in this video tutorial, it's going to get more into how to deliver a feint and actually deliver it as not just a sudden move in here, but actually a sudden move and how to deliver a powerful hit behind it. Okay, so the first thing is, we explained last time in here now that this is going to be different based on the opponent. So every opponent's going to respond differently. Every opponent has different kinds of defenses, and this is where the art comes in later on, is how to mask your attacks with deception so the person buys into it. You have to sell him the illusion that something is going to occur or possibly occur and then change the game on him real fast. So feinting and faking in here is not like just a move that you deploy. So I said last time a common feinting tactics that you see in sport fighting is when they're standing here like this. Here, back up just a little bit, and you see the guy just kind of go like this. Okay, and technically this is a feint. A feint is a sudden aggressive movement of the body that you do. Okay, it could be the whole body, it could be a part of the body that doesn't necessarily advance forward into an attack. Okay, so it's a sudden aggressive motion that you do to get your opponent to react or respond in here, and most of the time it's not linked to an attack. Okay, well today we're going to do this differently. So that is right, I agree with that, but there's also more to it than that. Okay, you can't just use feinting by itself in fighting. Okay, you're going to have to eventually mask fakes and feints, depending upon how good the person is. Okay, so feinting is a lot safer to do than a fake. A feint is not so committed. So if I do a general, we'll just take a body drop as a demonstration. I do like this. Okay, that's not very committed in here. Okay, but if I move forward in here and I add a technique to it, and I go like this in here. Okay, there's a little more committed feint. Okay, now what makes it different than a fake is that the feint, when I do that same motion again and I advance forward like this in here, there's some degree of my shoulder, my right shoulder coming out. all right? And what happens is that on purpose, I am trying to keep my body loaded so I can deliver a hit, but also keep my defenses back as much as possible. Okay, so if I wanted to deliver a technique from here, and I'm going to feint with my jab and then strike with my jab, it would look more like this. I would go here, and then I would drive it home into the guy like that. That would be a definition, or at least my definition, of how to deliver a feint and actually score with the punch. Okay? So the major advantage of doing that is I can actually stay out of range for a moment, give him the illusion that this punch is coming, and if he overreacts to it or whatever in here, that's great, but I can deliver the punch out here and still score. So if you notice, my body is still loaded with the arm. My arm is not going out here like this. Okay? So that is kind of a cut and dry definition of a feint in order to deliver a punch. Now, when most people do stuff like this in here, there's nothing linked to it. Okay, but there could be something linked to it. So I could do a body drop in here, and then I could deliver a body cross. That's the same concept of coming up here, delivering the jab. Okay, I could deliver a kick, feint with a kick, and then deliver it like this. So I initiate with the feint, that's the indirect attack, then I followed up with a direct attack. Okay? Now what also makes the feint different than a fake, and I'll get into the fake here in a second, is that the feint, let's go back to the jab here, the feint does not withdraw in here like that. A fake does. Okay, so let's demonstrate a fake. So if I were to fake with my jab, of course it's going to start with a feint. It has to. It has to start with some body movement like this. Okay, but the difference lies in the fake is going to actually commit more. Okay, to draw this guy's defenses out at it. Okay, so there's more of specific action coming to him that he goes, oh crap, I got to stop that. That's a jab coming. So whether he blocks or whatnot, or just reaches out in some artless way, he's thinking that this is the real line of attack. And for a moment, it is for a second. But then what the fake does is it pulls back. So as he goes to go get it, I pull back, and then I keep going. Bam! So you can see here that the fake advances to the target, and then pulls back, wham, in here like this, to get him to reach out for it. As opposed to a feint doesn't pull back. And it doesn't mean he's going to reach out for a feint either. He could reach out for a feint if he's really that jittery. So if I go like this and he reaches out, right, he could, and boom, like this in here. Okay? But there is a way to get a person to jump with a feint and score a really good hit. And a fake does the same thing, but a fake is designed, if you have to do a fake, that means that your opponent is that much better. If I can't land a simple feint, okay, let's say I do a feint jab and he just blocks it, and I go, okay, and I keep trying to repeat that, and try to do different things like this, and I do, body drops in here, like this, and he's just going whatever. I have to step back and go, okay, that's not working. So what I need to do now is I need to create the illusion that that may occur again, but now I have to get him to expose his defense more. In other words, I need to get him to reach out. So what I would do is I'd start the same process, but I would give him more of a punch to actually block in here like this without trying to hit him. Okay? And then what I would do is I'd kind of feint him a little bit and break up the rhythm. So I'm giving him different rhythms in here like this. And then as he starts to get so focused on that rhythm in here, then I come around and deliver something else. So that was basically a fake lead jab with a hook. I faked the jab and delivered a hook. But I got him I sold him on the idea that this jab was coming in here. So I'm using the feinting to start to initiate, but the body weight, but my arm is reaching out more, like this. So this is where you have to be able to eventually mix up feints and fakes, right? Because if you just keep going like this, he doesn't fall for it, and you just start, you become predictable. If I start just going like this, okay, like this in here, I might be able to get him. All right, but that's essentially what you're trying to do, but there's no, if you notice that there was no body weight behind the punch. I'm just going, so block again, I'm just arm punching it here like this. And I'm too close, I'm delivering it too close in here, so I have, yeah, so I get countered, so I have to be able to stay, control my range in here, and we'll get into that, in the next series, but I have to be able to deliver the technique in such a way to where I don't get countered myself, and I can start with a feint in here, and get him to reach out in here like this, and right there, and then I come in like that. So I have to eventually learn how to mix up feints and fakes if he's stopping. Okay, so that's kind of a cut and dry definition of a feint and a fake. Now, the next thing we want to do is learn how to deliver a specific action off the body, give a specific look from a feint that resembles one of our basic punches, a jab, a cross, a hook, a kick, and then learn how to transfer a weight into the punch. Okay, so we'll go ahead and work on that now. Okay, so I just kind of explained the difference between a feint and a fake in a little more detail. At least I hope I did. Okay, so now what we want to do is learn how to develop an effective strike off the feint. Because remember, what I said earlier is most fighters, when they feint, they don't have any attack behind it. And so they end up going like this, and the guy jumps, but then they don't do anything from there. Okay, so you can use your feinting, and you should, to kind of test a person to see how he flinches in here like this. But it is not going to necessarily get a person to reach out and commit to an attack because there's nothing behind it. Okay, so if you're going to try to get a person to reach out and block, or in here like this, or to drop his hands in here or get off balance, you got to give him, you got to throw something out there at some point to get him to really feel that it's a threat. Remember, the point is to sell him on the idea that he's going to get hit, not you're just trying to screw with him. So I can do that all day, and a person's eventually going to, okay, I don't believe you fooled me the first time, but I'm not going to fall for it again. Especially if it's done in a sport context where you're going a 5-minute, 3-minute round. I mean, if you feint 50 times in one round, and that's the majority of the technique that you're using in your fight, eventually the guy goes, this guy just does is just trying to scare me. Okay. Now the other thing that a feinting can do is when a person just goes to some body motion like this. Okay, what he's also trying to get the opponent to do is get the opponent to attack. All right, so if I go like this at the guy in here, and my opponent decides to launch in a technique, what can happen is the guy who's delivering the feinting can actually score on the person. Right. So what can happen is here, put that pad down one more time in here. So if I give him back up a little bit. If I give him a feint and he decides to try to take advantage of me moving, and I go like this, and he throws a punch, I can, deliver a technique right off that feint, because the feint is loaded in here like this. As long as I don't advance too far forward. So one of the things with the feinting, that it keeps the person coiled and loaded in here like this. Okay. So if I take the feint and I go like this, I'm not really loaded to deliver an effective technique. So this is where the art form comes in for each and every one of you, okay? So again, let's take this pad in here. Now we want to work on how to actually kind of deliver basically a technique. And we'll start with your jab, right? Closest weapon to closest target principle is something we emphasize a lot, okay? So in the other series, we'll get into more, how to feint with different techniques in here. But here's the point, is that the punch, the feint, back up just a tad here more. The feint should resemble, at least for right now, should resemble the same line that you would strike from. So if I throw from the southpaw position, if I throw a lead jab, and I throw it with a vertical fist, in other words like this, okay? Then if I feint, my shoulder and my hip, or whatever you use to make the punch power, deliver its power, that should be what's going out there. Okay, it's almost like I want to take my shoulder and go, here, you see this? I don't care about this half, I care about this half. Okay, if I give him too much, if I give him too much of a blur, sometimes a fighter just looks at you and goes, what the heck was that? Again, it's not being sold. So it has to look like something's coming at him. And this is why you have to mix up direct and indirect attack, just like feints and feints. You just can't indirect attack everybody, and you just can't direct attack everybody. You have to give them something that looks like a direct attack, but it's going to be indirect. Otherwise, they have to feel like that's kind of the real same thing. And I'm not sure, though. It keeps them guessing. So, start out with your jab. So what you want to do is find your optimum range where you hit it with a good jab. Okay, so for me, it's probably right about here where I feel I can cover this distance and step in and deliver a technique. Okay. So from there, once I find that range in here like this, I want to make sure that when I feint, that I mimic that same mechanics. So when I deliver a feint and a jab, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my shoulder forward and my lead leg forward, just like if I were to deliver the direct version of it. But what I'm doing is I'm holding on my body mass in here, and I'm trying to minimize how tense I get too, because that can slow you down. So there's going to be some tension with this, so I'm kind of putting on the brakes in here a little bit. And then from there, once I can kind of do that, I'm going to keep the punch loaded. See where this elbow stays right here. So it'd be boom, and then from there. Okay? So again, find your center of gravity, step forward, plonk, and then deliver. Okay? Let's try this, alright? What you don't want to do is go like this. Okay? Because now you're arm punching. So the body mass moves, the weapon and the body mass move together, clunk, and then it moves again. Okay? And therefore, you can see I still have the same amount of force on the punch. If I let the arm go ahead of the body, the punch, it gets there, but it's not as strong. And the other thing that's a problem is I'm leaning here, and I go, ugh, I'm leaning. So I may throw a decent arm punch in here, but then when I have to follow up when this doesn't work, or maybe when I deliver this technique in here, right, I'm going to add a combination, I'm out of position for the next punch. Okay, I certainly can't kick from here. If my intent was to do a feint, jab, score with the jab, then a kick, and I went, ugh, I can't kick very well because my base of support is too wide. So you have to stay in control of yourself when you do this in here. So again, you're going to step forward, so a neutral base, not too wide, because if you're too wide, when from the beginning you're going to be even extra wide when you step forward. So it's going to be here. All right, a little faster. You notice I don't pull the punch back. It pretty much stays right here. Okay? So that is a feinting lead jab. Okay? So now what we're going to do now is we're going to go and take that into another variation of the punch, which we're going to go into a cross. Okay? So our lead cross, or some people throw their jab like this. The same principles apply. So again, it's going to be, instead of going here now, right? This is the line of force for this punch. Now you want this line coming up here. So now you're going to bring this arm out from here like this, throwing the shoulder forward and the hip in here. So whoop, and then so so if you took a picture of this real quick, it'd be like smile, and then the next picture would be wham. Okay? So there's two variations how to throw that lead hand using a feint. Okay? So you can work on that, in sparring, working it on the bag and working on it with the mitt. But you want to have an effective punch. the goal is to have an effective punch, not just to get the guy to react. If you just get him to react, but you don't follow up, how are you gonna finish the person? Okay, so we're gonna keep the video today just on that, on feinting. And then next week's tutorial, if you follow along on my YouTube channel, we're gonna go into this again. And then we're gonna go into the feinting subject again, and then we're gonna go into how to deliver a fake. Okay? So again, the difference between a feint and a fake is the feint does not pull back. A feint advances forward, keeps you in a safe range where you can't get countered yourself easily, and then launches to the target when you see the person is basically deer in headlights. So when you feint a person, hopefully they're like or like this in here, and it allows you to follow through. A fake is going to commit more, boom, and it's going to be a nice camera shot right there, and then the next shot you would see would be it pulls back, and then it drives through. Okay, so it would be like your fake would be this. Would be here, whoop, body mass transferred, pull back, drive through. And that's still a hellacious hit, like this, driving through like that, as opposed to so focused on just trying to hit the guy that you go like this. Okay, I hit the guy, but you can see that's just arm punch. It didn't do nothing. I'm all stretched out in here. Okay, so the difference there between a feint and a fake using a lead jab. Okay, so that's all I want to share today because it gets very complex. We'll see you next week again for the same topic in here. So if you found it informative, please again share it with your friends, your training partners, coaches, and we'll see you next week again. Thank you very much and take care.